Welcome, viewers and listeners, to another edition of CHP Talks. I'm here with Angelina Ireland, who's been on our program before. Very special friend of ours. And Angelina, thanks for joining us today again.
Thanks for having me, Rod.
So this program is going to be a little different because Angelina was just up in northern BC visiting us in Smithers and in Terrace, presenting her important information there. And so we're going to do a very short interview, and then we're going to play the recording of her speech, her presentation that she gave at the old church in Smithers. But before we do that, I'm just going to introduce her properly to you. She was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, attended University of Winnipeg, where she received a bachelor honors degree in arts, and then went to Ottawa and received a master's degree in political science from Carleton University. She then moved to London, England, where she entered the world of credit and finance. And when she returned to Canada, she first lived in Toronto, then Vancouver, worked as an accountant, and 15 years ago, she started her own business and has worked with many small businesses. In 2013, after diagnosis of cancer, she became a client of the Delta Hospice Society, where she is now the executive director. When she recovered her good health, she joined the board of directors and served a time as president, and just has stepped into the role of executive director recently. But Angelina, for all this time, has been engaged in a battle not only to defend our society from various levels of government and euthanasia activists, but also to protect the whole concept of palliative care in Canada. So again, Angelina, we really enjoyed having you up here in Smithers and Terrace, and I know that the folks who were able to make it out to the meeting benefited, and that's why we want to play that tape for those who weren't able to make it and those across the country who want to know what you had to say and present there in Smithers. So thanks again so much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Oh,
it was great.
in our brief introduction, or a little about you, it mentions that you were a cancer patient, and maybe you could tell folks a little bit about that, how that came to be, and what kind of care you got at the Delta Hospice Society, where you now serve.
Yeah, it was. When cancer enters anybody's life, it ends up being an arduous journey. It affects not only you, but your family, your loved ones, your friends around you. So I got the full meal deal when I was, on my journey. I had the surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, a year of adjuvant therapy, and then about 6 years of, every day kind of therapy to ensure that the cancer didn't come back. So, I really feel like I've had a good walk through the whole system. And been able to navigate through that. That's when I entered the Delta Hospice Society and participated in their programming, which again was a tremendous help to me. And in helping me, it helped my family. So thanks be to God, I recovered to good health. But that whole experience changed me forever, and I think changed me for the better. I will always say that cancer was a blessing for me on many levels, but ultimately, I think that it got me in touch not only with my faith to a far greater degree, but also in direct frontline contact with the healthcare system, what's happening now with regard to medical assistance in dying, the real nice and fancy marketing slogan for euthanasia in Canada. It set me on a path whereby I can't be quiet. I must tell people what's going on. I must ensure that they are aware of the powers that be and how MAiD has become an empire, and that just an ordinary person has a very difficult time to, stand up against this behemoth.
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons why I have started basically a tour around the country to inform people of what's really going on.
right. And it'll come out in the presentation you gave. The details be there later about what happened, how the province of British Columbia, the government of British Columbia, stole the Delta Hospice Society facility and all that. So we won't go in all those details now, but can you tell folks, give us a good explanation. What's the difference between palliative care and the kind of procedures or the general standard practices that many vulnerable people, especially the elderly, experience today in British Columbia?
Yeah, so palliative care is, really a creation from what Christians would do for thousands of years in terms of the vocation to take care of the sick and the dying. It kind of became institutionalized in the 60s, where we, made a medical discipline out of this kind of care. And palliative care actually begins from diagnosis all the way through to natural end. And it is a comprehensive way of dealing with illness. A way of dealing with illness that can, in fact, make your life much better, extend the length of your life, even though you're undergoing, these medical and chronic difficulties, be it cancer, anything else that could even end terminally. So, palliative care is not only symptom management and pain management, it's also psychological support, spiritual support. It deals with the whole person. And not only that, with people's families, because that tends to be your support system. So it encompasses a great breadth of care. And what we've seen over the last 6 years, I would say, is this redefinition of palliative care, like a coercive makeover of what palliative care is. And even though Canada had a tremendous amount of educational resources to put into this in explaining it to the rest of the world what palliative care is, and an example that we provided to the world of what palliative care is, we've now changed the definition to mean you're palliative, right? You're 6 months to death. And in British Columbia, for an example, you're 3 months to death. Then you can be classified as palliative and be given palliative care. Well, that isn't palliative care, because in that 3-month definition now, they include euthanasia. And euthanasia was never part of palliative care. In fact, it's completely opposite to palliative care, because we do nothing to hasten the death of our patients. So we've gone through this makeover. It's been institutionalized, and really the only kind of palliative care you're going to get includes MAiD, and it's only at the very last moments of your life, pretty much, right? So in my estimation, palliative care has been destroyed in Canada. And this is a national treasure, a gift to humanity, which has been pretty much eliminated, as we know the original and authentic definition to be.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, most Canadians who could use and would benefit from palliative care in their final months of their life it's not accessible to them. We don't have the facilities. We don't have the trained medical staff that are devoted to that. And frankly, I believe many of us in the life movement, the pro-life movement, recognize that one of the reasons why governments are pushing euthanasia or MAiD is because it's cheaper than actually caring for people. And that's a very sad commentary on the kind of value we put on human life.
Well, it is. And just to give you an example, if you're eliminating palliative care to just 3 months to death, a lot of people who would have gained tremendous advantage by having authentic palliative care end up in a acute care bed at the end of their lives in the system. And that ranges anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 a day. If we were actually allowed to provide palliative care in the way that, we used to do it as an organization, we would save a ton of money, right? Because we could operate maybe $200-300 a day for a bed, but you end up in the public healthcare system at the end of your life, would be considered an incredible drain on resources.
Yeah.
And I think that truly that is another motivation for, pushing this whole MAiD thing.
And one of the things that you brought out in your presentation, and of course, when folks listen to this whole clip here, they're going to hear this again, but it really startled me. You mentioned that we have killed more people by MAiD since it was legalized in 2016 than the men and women in the Canadian Armed Services were lost in World War II. In other words, I think you mentioned there were 42,000 soldiers, armed services personnel who were killed in World War II. We've killed nearly 60,000 Canadians since the legalization of MAiD. And that, I had to go check those numbers because I thought, wow, we go to Remembrance Day services and we honor the men and women who died, and we still do, and we still will. But to think that we have deliberately killed more Canadians than died in World War II is just amazing to me.
It is, which is why my conclusion, is that it's a predatory regime against the Canadian people.
Yeah. Angelina, we're going to cut to the clip, your presentation, a wonderful presentation. And I feel sorry for those. Normally, I listen to a lot of podcasts myself, just an audio, and our podcast is available by audio. But for those who normally just listen, you might want to tune into Brighteon, BitChute, or YouTube and watch this presentation, because Angelina has a great PowerPoint presentation that goes along with it, and you would benefit by the visuals as well as hearing her voice. But I'm sure even if people only can hear the podcast, they'll still benefit. But if you have the opportunity to watch it on YouTube or BitChute or Brighteon, there's probably a little bit more that you can gain from that. Angelina, thanks for taking the time. We enjoyed your stay up here in the north. And I know you're hard at work back down there in Delta, and you're going to be making trips across the country with this same message. And we really appreciate that we had the opportunity to hear you in Smithers.
Thank you again. And if anybody has any further questions, they can call us toll free 1-800-232-1589. Thank you. God bless.
Wonderful. Thanks, Angelina. God bless you. Angelina, come and share with us. Thanks.
Hello there. My name is Angelina Ireland, and I am an unapologetic Christian. I'm also a woman, an adult human female, and no, I don't have any pronouns. Thank you so much for having me today, and I thank you, Rod, for inviting me to share this time with you and to meet new friends. You can hear me okay, Penny? I'm always paranoid about that. So I came yesterday from Delta, which is just outside of Vancouver, about 20 minutes outside Vancouver, and I'm loving it here. I have to tell you, I love the air, I love the snow, I love the cold, because actually I'm a prairie kid. You can't take the prairie out of the kid, right? No matter where you go. So I appreciate it here very much. That's just it. But tonight, you might think I'm a little outspoken. Well, yes, I am. I tend to think that I'm quite honest because, honesty, actually, that is charity. Telling people the truth is charity, and we are called to love, and, well, actually, charity is love. So I'm going to tell you tonight some things. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm going to tell it like it is. So thank you for joining me this evening. Protecting each other from MAiD. Now, I thought MAiD was supposed to be this fantastic new program, fantastic services where you get to have some human rights, apparently, because freedom and choice and all that good stuff. Well, there we go. Medical assistance in dying. So it came to us in 2016 through the federal government, through the Trudeau Liberals, and basically it was from a court case at the Supreme Court of Canada, the Carter case, where it was unanimous, the justices, they had decided that in fact, if people are on the are going to die, then they should just be killed by the state. And of course, the government agreed that that's the kind of power that no government is going to go without. The power to kill their citizens, that is the ultimate power that they took from us at that moment. And it basically allows doctors and nurse practitioners to kill by performing procedures or providing medications. And doctors and nurses would not be charged with murder because it was non-culpable homicide. So in other words, physicians and nurse practitioners may introduce MAiD to a patient. They don't even have to wait until the person says, oh, by the way, what's this MAiD thing? No, they come right out and they say, have you ever considered MAiD? Medical assistance in dying. It sounds so lovely somehow. And that is they can suggest it to the patient even when other medical treatments are available. So by 2022, over 45,000 Canadians had been killed by MAiD. And that in fact is more Canadians than we lost during World War II. You see, in World War II, they only killed 42,000 Canadians. And so now we can anticipate that by 2023, about 62,000 Canadians will have been killed by the state. And that's a 30% increase. And in fact, every year since it began, there has been a 30% increase in those taking medical assistance in dying. And anybody who's involved in business or any other kind of initiative, you know that a 30% return year after year is actually quite exceptional. You're lucky if you get a 5%. If you get 5% on your money, everybody's happy, right? A 30% return year after year for those that are involved in trying to persuade people that allowing the government to kill you is actually a good idea. Which is why I say that MAiD is actually a predatory regime against the Canadian people. And why do I say that? Well, because let's take a look at Team MAiD, shall we? Team MAiD is made up of not only national lobbies, national lobby groups, but government departments, the judiciary, other organizations that all get their money from the government and big donors. So let me just walk you through that for a minute so you know what I'm talking about. Dying with Dignity Canada, I'm sure maybe some of you have heard about them. Their mission is to widen access to euthanasia. And they have become actually a very formidable political force within the government, with access to federal and provincial ministers. I suspect some of them even have federal ministers on their speed dial. They can get a hold of them so quickly. They are given charitable status, which means they can give out tax receipts to people. But they also get big money from the government. They get federal grants, over $400,000. They get big money from donors. In fact, just came out today that they actually got money from Pfizer.
No.
And I wonder why. Perhaps it's because Pfizer would like to be, providing Canadian government with the death row cocktails that they use for MAiD. Because yes, that's what they use. They use the same cocktails that they use for people on death row when they execute them. They use paralytics that first enter the bloodstream, so people are paralyzed, which is why there are reports of it looking so peaceful, so beautiful, because they paralyzed the person first and they couldn't scream even if they wanted to. And then all the other drugs come in that stop the heart, or that's not working yet, then the drugs that come in and actually drown people with liquid that fills up their lungs. So yes, that is what MAiD is. And Health Canada, of course, is getting in on the act. They have a focus on expanding access to MAiD, and they have an end-of-life unit with actually has 18 full-time staff members and a model practice standard for MAiD to establish unified practices and procedures across the country. So they're really in this. We do not have anything that's anywhere near that for things like palliative care and Health Canada. But MAiD, now that's a very progressive policy. And they even go after the kids with their medical assistance in dying activity book. It's so cute. They made such a nice little activity book for children that even has a little activities. They can have little puzzles, right? So that the children can get involved, so that when something like this happens, the children are completely desensitized and not put up with us. Something that they just expect is part of life now. And these MAiD activists even have support from the courts, from the judiciary, because, you know, unfortunately some of our judges have become activist judges. And this is also very evident when we're looking at the Truchon case. So the Truchon case was the one in Quebec that actually was the reason why we've expanded the eligibility of who can be MAided now in Canada. And this was from a lower court in Quebec with a judge that was very much in favor of MAiD. And she ruled that, you know, to have a foreseeable death is not acceptable because that's discrimination. Everybody should be allowed to kill themselves with the help of the state. And so they ruled that even just I think the terminology was a condition that was like intolerable. An intolerable situation, you should be allowed to have MAiD. And the government basically went along with it. They did not invoke the notwithstanding clause, which basically says the government's not going to listen to what any crazy judge says. Excuse me, that's just my opinion, so nobody needs to get concerned. But they did not appeal the ruling to the highest court in Quebec, which they could have done, and they certainly didn't even consider taking that to the Supreme Court of Canada. No, they just folded pretty much immediately, and they changed the criminal code yet again to say that agents of the state can now kill people living in an intolerable situation. So now, on Team MAiD side, we have again another organization, and this one was actually started by 6 BC physicians. They are a national nonprofit, and they get lots of money from the government. They get $4 million, if not more. And these doctors have established guidelines that will educate all health professionals about their professional obligations to provide MAiD. And they have access to 96,000 doctors across Canada and 312,000 healthcare workers. And the all-stars on this team are people like Dr. Stephanie Green, who's on the island, Vancouver Island, and she herself has performed over 300 MAiD procedures, and she's also in tight with the Dying with Dignity Canada. And we have Dr. Ellen Weeb, who has herself performed over 700 MAiD procedures, and I think she's probably the most hardworking deaf doctors, because by day she does abortions, and then by night, you know, she can, in her spare time, she can kill the sick and the elderly. And she again is wrapped up with the Dying with Dignity Canada on their Hall of Fame, Wall of Fame. I say Wall of Shame, but apparently that's not appropriate. And Dr. Chantel there, she's also with the Dying with Dignity Canada, and Dr. Shanana, she's also with Dying with Dignity Canada. And we see, as we look at all these organizations, they get all kinds of money from the government, that really they're just interlocking directorates. The same people are on the same boards, and they're providing the same kinds of guidelines and same kind of government policy that we're all supposed to follow. And so they have also They also are involved with what we call MAiD house. So this is like you go and rent a little space where you can have your MAiD, but you have to bring your own death doctor. And these houses the first one was in Toronto, and they say that they killed over 125 people in 2022 alone, and that they're going to have these MAiD houses all over Canada. Even in a neighborhood close to yours, likely, is what their plan is, where people can go and have MAiD. And on their advisory council, they have, again, some of these same doctors, and they also have lawyers. And some of the people on their advisory councils are considered to be, very influential people in Canada. Doctors and lawyers, and, they're very intimidating because they're so smart. And we're all supposed to be very frightened of them, I'm hearing. So that's not enough. Nope. Now, you can go to a funeral home and you can have your MAiD right there. You see, it's so convenient. They'll just MAiD you in a room and then just put you in a coffin. And that's it, right? They're making it so convenient. And one of the most egregious things that I find about this is the crucifix, which is hanging on the wall. As if God is with them. And so the newest thing now is that you can kill yourself in a national park. So I'm wondering if that's, if now Canada Tourism is going to get in on the fun, and they're going to market this to the world. Come to Canada and kill yourself in beautiful Jasper or Banff. So I would suggest that there's a lot of money to be made, and that somebody's obviously doing very well, but I would say not our team, but their team. So who is our team? Who's standing up for us? Who's standing up for Canadians that don't want to be mated by the state? It's a very good question. So we can see their team, very strong, very well funded, with lots of people and lots of power. Well, on our team, we have, of course, palliative care. Now, palliative care is a 50-year medical discipline that is a holistic approach that wants to take care of people. That wants to take care of people, regardless of their situation, until the rest of their lives. So it helps to improve your quality of life. It helps to reduce or relieve your symptoms. And it supports you from your time of diagnosis until your natural end. But one thing that palliative care does not do is it does not euthanize its patients. It does not include MAiD in palliative care. And that is a position that is held through all of the palliative care organizations throughout the world. In fact, Canada has had a lot to do with palliative care. We are very honored, actually, to have Dr. Balfour Mount, who is the father of palliative care, who came from McGill University. And he was staunchly against MAiD, and certainly including MAiD within palliative care. Because, we can actually do a very good job of taking care of people when they're ill. We have the technology, and we have the medicine to relieve pain and to help people to live well until their natural end. Of course, if they let us use it. So we thought we were going to score a win back in 2017 when the federal government, after passing MAiD, then passed Palliative Care Act, which was a framework for palliative care. And they were promising us that they were going to pledge $6 billion over 5 years to improve palliative care for Canadians. So 5 years later, I would say, as on a report card, they're going to get a big fat F. Failed. In fact, they should go back and they should try again. Because what has not changed is that it is still family members who are the caregivers, for the most part, of their sick family. It is still community organizations, people like Delta Hospice Society and others who are still, doing the lion's share of what true palliative care is. That is, if they let us. But what has changed is the actual definition of palliative care. So now I get it now, okay. So palliative care was from diagnosis to natural end, but palliative care is now defined as 6 months to death. For British Columbia, 3 months to death. That's when you are eligible for palliative care. So the Delta Hospice Society is a 30-year palliative care organization. And during that time, we have tried to do as much as we can to further the discipline. We raised $8.5 million, and we got a 35-year land lease, and we built 2 buildings, a 10-bed hospice residence, and next door to that, a supportive care center. This is where we did all the programming. This is where I went when I was a cancer patient to participate in programs. And this is our hospice. This was our hospice, 10-bed, state-of-the-art facility, beautiful. People would come from across Canada to take a look at that and see how they could build a similar facility in their area. And we called it the Irene Thomas Hospice. And this is what it looks like when you came in the door. Beautiful open air areas for people and family to congregate if they wanted to talk. And if they didn't want to, into private rooms where they could sit and have some peace with one another. And each room had a beautiful patio outside, go into the garden. And next to that this was our 7,500 square foot supportive care center that we built. But when MAiD came a knocking, the government insisted that we participate in MAiD. But you see, that is completely against our medical philosophy, because hospices do not kill their patients. That is not palliative care. But they tried, in fact, they forced every hospice to do that. So we were the last hospice standing that refused to kill their patients. Because we have a vision. And our vision was for hospice sanctuary. Our vision was to provide a safe place for the dying, where they could come and live out their lives in a beautiful area with their family around them. And they would participate in, we had a doctor, we had nurses on staff, and that is how we lived out what palliative care was supposed to be in this country. And when the government said, we're going to take your money, because they gave us $1.5 million a year, and we provided the 10 palliative care beds, and the other building where we provided the programming, we did not get money from the government for that. That was what we fundraised to provide. And so we said to the government, that's fine, you can take the money, because actually we don't even want your money. We consider that to be blood money, so we'll raise our own money, and we will continue with our program. And they said, oh no you don't. Oh no you don't. We're not only going to take your money, we're going to cancel your lease. So we had 25 years left on our lease, and the government canceled it. And they canceled it because we don't have any government funding. So therefore, we apparently were in conflict with the lease because we weren't getting any government money. So they canceled the lease. And those buildings that sat on the ground were just considered fixtures to the land, like some kind of old fence or some kind of shed. So we were literally evicted from our buildings. Yes, sir, I may have questions after.
Okay.
Yes. Not only were we evicted from our buildings, but our patients were also evicted from our buildings. So the Fraser Health Authority walked in one day and passed out eviction notices to the dying people in their beds, saying that they're going to have to leave in 2 months. So of the 7 people that were there at that point, of the 10, 3 people actually did pass away in that 2 months, and 4 people were taken away, I don't know where, to another hospice in the Fraser Health Authority region, and we were evicted, and we had to leave. So this is moving day, of course, and we are moving out of our supportive care center. We had 7,500 square feet worth of furniture that we had to do away with. But we left everything in the hospice because that's not who we are. So they closed that hospice. And 2 weeks later, they reopened it under the operation of the Fraser Health Authority, and they do MAiD there. And in fact, I have had friends that have been MAIDed in a facility that was meant to protect and provide health care for our people. But, so that's team palliative care. So what, we've got, 10 to 0 at this point. But, we also always had faith that at least the Catholic healthcare system would be left alone. The Catholic healthcare system that has a faith-based exemption because they're apparently not supposed to have to provide euthanasia in their facilities. And it's under Providence Healthcare in Vancouver. But just recently, we were told that, in fact, and thanks to people like Dying with Dignity Canada that lobbied the provincial government, they were going to have to provide MAiD. And they were told that they were going to have to provide MAiD, regardless, even if they were a religious organization. So they came up with some kind of workaround. So now what they're going to do is, from St. Paul's Hospital, they're going to construct a corridor to a little slaughterhouse next door, and they'll wheel the people through the hall, and they'll MAiD them there. So, you see, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe anymore in the healthcare system. So now we're still 0 to 10 on our side. And very wise man said that because of his wife, who was a devout Catholic and woman of faith and pro-life, who would never have agreed to MAiD, was MAIDed. And basically, that gravely wounded, demented, or elderly people are at risk of euthanasia in the BC healthcare system. So the Delta Hospice Society, after they took our buildings and they took our program and our hospice, they weren't successful to take the organization from us. So we still have the organization, although we don't have a hospice in this moment. But we remain committed to providing resources for people to somehow access authentic palliative care. And therefore, we've come up with a couple of things. Come up with a couple of ways that we might be able to help protect people so they can help protect themselves. And the first thing is the Do Not Euthanize Advance Directive. So we went to a lawyer and we got him to write up for us one for every province in British Columbia. And that is basically what it says is that I will not be euthanized. I have no interest in MAiD. Don't even talk to me about it because I want health care and I want health care until my natural end. So don't even think about unilaterally deciding to cut off my oxygen or my nutrition or my hydration, because I'll consider that to be homicide. And I will instruct my people to go after you for homicide. So we have had a lot of success with these Do Not Euthanize Advance Directives. In fact, we have given out thousands of them across Canada. And I brought some for you tonight. They're on the back table, and I would ask you to please pick one up, and you can make copies if you like, and to use them, to put them in your personal papers, and take them with you if you go to a healthcare facility of any sort. Make copies for your loved ones. And all you need is 2 witnesses to sign. You can have a lawyer, of course, or a notary, but we have found that some of them don't like it and they won't sign it. Because there's no need for such a thing. Anyways, I'm telling you to take it and get 2 witnesses to witness it for you and keep it in your personal papers. And it will, we hope, it will help to protect you against having your life terminated prematurely. And what we've also done is we've created the Guardian Angels program. And Guardian Angels is a volunteer health advocate program. Basically, we say to you, you need the buddy system if you're going to go into a healthcare facility, British Columbia or in Canada for that matter. That you don't go alone and you don't let your loved ones go alone. And so sometimes it's not possible for you to go with them and watch them 24/7. So we have developed a program whereby we train volunteers to come with you to attend, if it's a doctor's appointment or to visit you in the hospital, to do bedside visits, and to ensure that people know that you're not alone. And that you might be ill, and you might be tired, and you might be depressed, and you might not be able to advocate for yourself, that somebody else will advocate for you and watch over you to ensure that in fact you get health care. And we've had some good success with this. So I'm very excited about this program. We have found that if you bring a health advocate with you, that you're not so likely to be sent home in an Uber when you go to the hospital, as has been our experience, that you're not so likely to get bumped. Well, you might get bumped for surgery, but we'll find a way to make sure that you get your surgery. We have an example of an 89-year-old woman who was turned away from 2 hospitals, sent home in an Uber. No, she wasn't dying, but she needed health care. Actually, she needed an operation. And so they bumped her twice for her operation. And I think really they just wanted her to just go home and leave them alone and just die. Because apparently the elderly aren't as valuable. To which I say, old lives matter. So we put an advocate with her when she went to the hospital for the 3rd time. And when they wanted to refuse her admittance, the advocate, who had been trained by nurses in our program, was able to discuss and advocate with the other nurses and doctors on the ward to accept her into the emergency department. And I actually got a phone call from one of the nurses too at the time, but I was like, nope, this woman is not leaving. This woman is not leaving because this woman needs health care. So eventually, they admitted her to the hospital. And then she actually got her surgery. And then she recovered from her surgery. But I must tell you that as soon as the advocate left her there in the hospital, she got another visitor. And this visitor was the MAiD doctor. And they asked her, are you sure that you really want to go through this? This is a lot in your age and blah, blah. And we'd already, talked with her enough that she knew what to say. And she said, out. I'm going to have my health care, I'm going to have my surgery, and turn off the light when you leave, because I need to have a rest. So they weren't able to MAiD her, and they had to somehow follow through and give her her surgery, and she recovered, and she went home, and she's 90 years old, and she's doing very well. So we have success stories in this program. But what we need is more guardian angels out there. What we need is guardian angels in the small communities, because we know that it's the small communities that really have no or very little access to palliative care and to support by the healthcare system. It is still those small communities, those rural communities, whereby friends and family take care, where the caregivers are not, right, and they're not at the hospital, they're individual citizens that are concerned about their people and their family. So we need guardians. We need guardians here in Smithers. And as I'm talking to you, yes, I'm looking at you and I'm talking to you and I'm saying that we need you. If you have some time, if you have a few hours a week, if you're interested, sign up to be a guardian angel. We will train you, we will make sure that you're ready, and we will match you with someone who needs a buddy, who needs a friend to advocate for them when they have to navigate through the healthcare system, which is quite predatory. And we'll even take your pets, because we know that animals are actually, they make people happy, and it relieves the stress tremendously. And you don't have to worry. We will, in fact, make sure that you have all the support you need. We will train you very well. We will watch you. And we will ensure that together we become team life that can rival any team MAiD out there, regardless of their money and their power and their influence. And we also have someone that team MAiD doesn't have. And that's our secret weapon. So, you and I, we are Team Life. And if you want to get some more information, this is our website, deltahospicesociety.org. This is our toll-free number. You can call us, you can leave a message, you go on our website, you can download or you can apply for a DNE, and we'll send it to you. And if you want to talk about guardian angels, we can talk about that with you, and we can find out how many. If you have a couple hours a week, that's really all that might be required. So again, I just want to thank you for standing with me tonight and listening to me. When I look around, everybody that I speak to, I know that it might be difficult. We are going to win this war against MAiD, because they cannot rival people power, nor can they rival God. So thank you very much.